but this is our talk on bile. So what is bile? Many compounds make up bile, but one of the most important ones are bile acids, also known as bile salts, which blend fats together during digestion so that your body can absorb them. Bile is made of the following components: water, bile salts, bilirubin, cholesterol, fatty acids, lecithin, sodium, potassium, and calcium. Bile breaks down fats and absorbs fats. It also removes toxins. And then enterohepatic circulation functions as a detox loop between the gut and the liver. Um, so bile is recirculated, if you didn't know that. And that's that enterohepatic circulation. There's a whole talk on that that we can go through. Bile plays many roles in helping set the microbiome by regulating motility, preventing SIBO by causing the secretion of antimicrobial peptides, and promoting an environment that selects for commensal microorganisms over pathogenic ones. I thought that was really neat to think of. I mean, I always think of bile as kind of like a detergent, right? Like it goes in there and it emulsifies the fats and helps absorb them. And, but to think that it helps select which microorganisms stay and which ones go was kind of cool. Um, Bile is released by both the gallbladder and the liver. A small study was done on bile excretion throughout the day, and when the data was collected and analyzed, researchers found that physical activity caused a substantial increase in bile acid output into the duodenum. Bile acid output was 242 micromoles per 30 minutes for sedentary people, but it increased 2,204 for people that exercised. So that was a pretty substantial increase in duodenal bile acids, but where the bile acids came from is even more interesting. The researchers measured changes in the size of the gallbladder to see if the bile was coming from there. And as it turns out, the gallbladder didn't decrease in size, it increased. That indicated that the bile was not coming from the gallbladder contraction, it was coming directly from the liver. And it also indicates that physical activity may help the gallbladder fill to an even greater extent than when you are sedentary. So this data indicates that physical activity may increase bile acid output into the duodenum by a factor of 10%. So for all of your clients that are having bile issues, right? And you want to try and increase bile and you're thinking about, how can we do this? Get them moving.
It's interesting. I wonder what happens for somebody who is very physically active but does no longer have a gallbladder. Does the liver, where would it just push that out
It just
more
goes right.
directly?
I would guess there's no gallbladder, so I would think that it would directly go into
The gut.
the duodenum, right?
Mhm.
So enterohepatic circulation. So this is a diagram of where the gallbladder is and the hepatic duct. Um, so if you don't know your circulation, but all the green is all the hepatic, all the duct work in the liver, which goes down, and then it has to go backfill into the gallbladder. And
I
then,
never knew there was that much. I never knew there was that much you vessels, not
yeah,
not arterial or venous, but I mean there was that much
duct work in the liver.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never knew there was quite that much. It's a good diagram.
hmm And then obviously it comes down and it's in this part right here that we talked about, where the common bile duct comes down and then
Right.
connects with the pancreas, right? Um, where the enzymes come out and they both join before going into the duodenum. And we
Which
saw
is where,
that in the stomach when we did the digestion slides.
right. Isn't that what, I mean, I think if I can remember back from my physiology, isn't that where some people, when they have their gallbladder removed, they still get issues because that was not, because they still have like gallstones or,
Right. I mean, gallstones can form anywhere, stones can form anywhere in the bile
yeah.
ducts. It doesn't have to necessarily be just in the gallbladder. You can get blockages, sludgy bile anywhere in here.
Yeah.
So just removing the gallbladder where the stones collect, right, doesn't necessarily change the physiology of the rest of the bile.
And if you don't correct whatever caused the gallstones in the first place, you may
Hmm.
very well end up with.
Yeah. So I had my gallbladder out in 1997 after my second son. I had him September 7th, and literally Halloween, I had my gallbladder removed. Happy Halloween to me.
Really.
So I haven't had a gallbladder since 1997.
Mm.
I got pregnant with my daughter, and in 2002, I went to the county fair, had a bloomin' onion, and had a mass. And I know what they felt like because I suffered through my entire second pregnancy with gallbladder attacks.
Mhm.
Had one with my daughter. In between then, I was doing things like milk thistle and dandelion and things to help with my gallbladder, and I had religiously taken them for years afterwards because I found, people told me like, "Oh, it's this is what's going on, and if you can have an," I was not going to have any more kids because my second pregnancy, I was so sick. I was on an IV. I lost so much weight because I kept having gallbladder attacks and I couldn't keep anything down, severe hyperemesis, like just, I mean, to the point where my toddler would come into the bathroom and fake throw up with me
And
because my
that was
son was
before your gallbladder was removed, though,
right
right?
while I was pregnant with my
Right.
second.
And that's
And
why.
I had a little baby, right? Like Sean was 21 months when Joshua was born. So he was 18 months old and I was sick, hooked up to an IV pole most of the time, taking care of him. Um, and so anyway, super sick. Ended up pregnant again, right? Cleaned up my diet, did all these things. That's when I got introduced to, natural herbal medicine and all this stuff. Started taking milk thistle, felt great, lost all my weight that I couldn't lose, got pregnant with my daughter. Perfect, awesome pregnancy. This was before I was buying stuff online, and the local place where I got my milk thistle, the local health food store, was out. I went to buy more and it was out, and it wasn't coming until the next week. And so we went to the fair and I had a bloomin' onion and I hadn't had milk thistle for a few days and I had the worst gallbladder attack. I thought like it was terrible. So you don't need a gallbladder to have a gallbladder attack because my gallbladder was never the problem. It was everything else. And, it's just one of those things where you think about like how many gallbladders get removed when, you haven't fixed the problem. You've just taken the smoke detector out of the building, right? Building's still on fire.
At a
So
very
this,
young age too, because
what was that?
when I was at a very young age, I know when I
Yeah.
was first in nursing, you rarely ever saw anybody that was under the age of 40 having their gallbladder out. And then all of a sudden, there were 23-year-olds in there having their gallbladder
My
right and
niece
left.
was 13, 14 when she had hers out. And now she has so many health problems, and none of it, um, she hasn't had any of it taken care of. Like it was just terrible. All right, I had some notes that I had opened up. I do this all the time, guys. All right, I don't know if this is going to stop my share. I think I may have to stop it for a moment and get it because
Hey,
I do.
Joe, oh, I'm sorry. While
Go
you're
ahead.
looking for that, I'm just on a country road and 5 miles I'll be getting back on a freeway type thing. But I don't know why, but in my nursing, I saw it was very interesting that so many pregnant women would get gallbladder attacks, and I never have gone by. I can hear Jen saying, look it up, why it happens when you're pregnant. But the other thing is there is a complication post-op after they've had a coli, and people will get chronic diarrhea. And I've got a other nurse friend who could not find an answer, and they were doing incredible invasive crap with her, and she finally read it herself online to get Questran, which I believe is a fiber type supplement to give people to poop out high cholesterol, I think. But anyway,
What's it
she
called?
doesn't, I think it's Questran, Questran. And I think that's what it's for, is one of those fiber things that you poop out cholesterol. when you can't take cholesterol meds. But it fixed her, she found it herself and it fixed her diarrhea. So
Wow.
whatever that is, I thought it was interesting. Just wanted to share it with you gals.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ta-da! I found my notes.
Is that Kristen, was that prescription?
I believe it was years ago. It could be over the counter now because I think Vicky gets it herself.
Okay.
Questran. Um, yeah, cholestyramine is commonly used to lower bad cholesterol in people with high cholesterol. Um, helps with diarrhea, can lower. A prescription is needed.
Hmm.
It's used as a binder for mycotoxins too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It was out of stock during COVID. Wonder why. This 2021 question is out of stock with no further suppliers expected before 2021.
That's fitting with the toilet paper shortage too.
Right? Oh, that's funny. All right. So this is just showing the enterohepatic um, circulation. So, um, and there was a whole, like I said, Jen went deep into this in a different talk, which I'm going to kind of pull that out.
I
Um,
like that you've got all the different strains or the different I guess they're genus of microbes,
bacteria.
yeah, that are actually in those different areas. That's really
Hmm. So, but then 95% of the bile is reabsorbed and goes back up and then into the circulation to
Mm.
get reused. So, you talk about when we start thinking about, what happens when this is broken, right? And all the things that might go wrong. It's kind of neat.
Well, and what affects that? What causes it to become broken?
Yep. So in true cases of SIBO, overgrowth of bacteria can happen in any area within the ileum or the jejunum. So those who have bacterial overgrowth outside of the lower ileum area have an obvious lack of bile, since most bile is not being passively absorbed and the majority of it will reach the lower ileum. So that's what this is saying, right? So, um, you know, once the bile, most of the absorption is happening here in the lower part. And if you don't have enough bile, then that's where the bile is signaling for the different forms of bacteria, right? The overgrowth and things like that. Um, and it's telling the good ones to stay and the bad ones to go. But if you're not getting good bile circulation, then you end up with all those overgrowths. Bile acids are antimicrobial, but commensal bacteria such as lactobacilli and bifido are bile resistant. If overgrowth tries to occur, the location is generally closer to the cecum, where a larger amount of peptides are produced that will regulate the size of commensal bacteria. Makes it cool. So, this goes back in, we talked about endotoxins on Friday, right? And that postprandial endotoxemia. Um, these lovely things. So the macrophage ingests a gram-negative bacteria. The bacterium is degraded in the vacuole, releasing the endotoxins that induce the macrophage to produce the cytokines, IL-1 and TNF-alpha. Cytokines are then released into the bloodstream, and they travel to the brain. The cytokines induce the hypothalamus to produce prostaglandins, which reset the body's thermostat to a higher temperature, producing fever. Isn't that kind of cool?
But you don't always have fever, right?
No, not always. But
I
it is
mean,
those, which way did I go? Sorry. But it is those endotoxins that create that. So
now why is hypo, is it, that's not really crossed out, right? That's just a,
no, it's an arrow that got
okay,
put,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, on the thing. So since endotoxins cause a massive immune reaction, it's important to have a way to neutralize it so it becomes inert. Luckily, we have ways to do this, and the enterohepatic circulation is involved in the whole process. So when bile circulates via the enterohepatic circulation, it breaks up some of the endotoxin, rendering it harmless. The endotoxin that remains gets taken up by the chylomicrons and transported to the liver for processing. Once processed, it gets dumped back into the gut via the bile. So bile also prevents endotoxin from entering the bloodstream by decreasing intestinal permeability. This helps make sure it gets sent packing out the back door. So without the bile, you have more leaky gut happening. Bacteria that contain endotoxin can be circulated between the intestine and the liver via the enterohepatic circulation and acted on by alkaline phosphatase and bile acids. By changing the chemical structure of the endotoxin, alkaline phosphatase prevents the immune system from recognizing it, and the highly inflammatory molecule becomes inert. Bile can also break apart endotoxin and prevent it from leaking from the gut into the blood. This decreases the overall inflammatory burden caused by endotoxins.
So go back and address an alkaline phosphatase level. So they're saying there that if you had a low alkaline phosphatase, it would hinder the immune system from recognizing it.
So, alkaline phosphatase prevents the immune system from recognizing it. So, if it was low,
Right. It would
then,
be, it would
right,
be
you
less
have
likely,
more of the inflammatory molecules doing
right?
more damage.
Another reason to think about the effects of a low alkaline phosphatase.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that triggering more immune system. So one last thought, zeolite to calm the gut wall by acting as a binder. So in those with low bile output, um, using a binder then can help support the immune system by removing that trigger. So, increasing bile output. There are three phases of the migrating motor complex when looking at it from a motility perspective. Phase one is there's no motor activity. Phase two is low motor activity that slowly increases in frequency. And then phase three would be strong, evenly spaced waves of motor activity that cause the peristaltic contractions. And bile has a role in regulation of gut motility. So bile appears to stimulate motility in the duodenum. In both humans and rats, secretion of bile into the duodenum precedes phase three contractions. Removing bile from the duodenum causes the disappearance of phase three contractions. So remember, phase one is there's not a lot of activity. Phase two is low, that's increasing, and then three is the strong motility signal.
So do you have any, I mean, I guess you have some peristalsis with phase two. It's just, um, they're just not strong
Yeah,
contractions.
that's just the phase two is kind of the increase, slow increase phase, and then you have the
Mhm.
solid steady. So just based on, right, I mean, and this is kind of what you're thinking, right? Is you eat food and then as it travels through, right?
Right.
And then it just moves down depending on where food is, and then it starts over again. So starts here. Oh, click. I can't click. It would start when food enters the stomach, but bile in the duodenum,
Hmm.
right? I would put that arrow up here, but so the migrating motor complex helps to move food waste and fiber from your stomach through to your colon. The migrating motor complex is important because it also keeps sweeping bacteria out of the small intestine and prevents backwash of bacteria from the large intestine up into the small intestine. When digestion is complete, the MMC gets stronger for a while and then it slows down as it gets closer to the ileum. If you eat again before it's done, it stops it. So things kind of hang out. So that's why you don't want people with SIBO and things like that doing all the grazing, right? You want them to have complete cycles. So, phase one, phase two. So these are the MMC in the different phases. Um, so phase one is a prolonged period. 40 to 60% of the time, your body's in phase one. Phase two increases in frequency of action potentials and smooth muscle contractility. Phase three is a few minutes of peak electrical and mechanical activity. And then phase four declines and then goes up and merges with the phase one for the next phase. And if your stomach is growling, that is your MMC hard at work, but you may think it's hunger. Because that's what we're always taught, right? Oh, your stomach's growling. Must
So
be
is that because the MMC, if your stomach is empty, because it's been a long period of time, because that's usually when you see
right.
it.
That's when it goes back up. Yeah.
So is that basically there's nothing there for it to push through and it's making noise because there's nothing to push through?
Hmm.
So what is considered would you say a long period of time or the shortest period of time somebody with SIBO should put between meals? Is
Um,
3 hours enough? Or between eating, I should say. I've always wondered that because I've heard different things.
yeah, I mean, what's come to my head based on nothing is 2 to 4 hours between meals, but
Right.
that's based on nothing. I mean, that's just what popped into my head. I would have to actually look and see, is there something, specifically that, um,
Well, I guess part of the question is how long does it take the motor complex to actually go through a whole cycle of the whole small and large intestines? And it said there
this
about
is
3 hours.
2.5 to 3 hours, right?
Okay.
Because it starts and it goes all the way through, but then it starts back up
Right. Okay.
and then
So
does
I
it
would say a
again.
minimum of 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm sure it varies from person to person.
Hmm. So Campylobacter jejuni from food poisoning is a leading suspect in MMC impairment. What else can this bacteria lead to? Patients with any dysbiosis, SIBO and IBS, have an uh, average a third as many MMC phase 3 events, with those events being roughly 30% shorter on average. This is why a prokinetic can be helpful to instigate the MMC to function.
Hmm.
So what hormone is the prokinetic replicating?
Estrogen? No?
This is funny because the one that I have, my, I don't have all these on here. So the gastrocolic reflex is a reflex that stimulates contractions in the colon that can lead to a BM shortly after eating. Um, make some room. She just ate pizza and donuts. Oh, it's funny. So this is actually the second, this goes into the other, the second slide deck, which I don't have finished, and I'm missing a couple slides from the first slide deck. I don't know why that is. I think I started doing some of these, but I'm missing some slides, guys, because I'm looking at my extra slides here. It says fiber can help prevent stagnation and increase motility. So beta glucans is something that you can use to help stimulate the migrating motor complex. It's a polysaccharide, soluble fiber. It modulates metabolism and the immune system. And it's fiber found in cereal grains, which a lot of people can't have, right? Yeast and certain mushrooms. But here. This is the slide that answers your question and why I don't have it here. It says migrating motility complexes. It repeats every 75 to 90 minutes during the digestive period. It clears residual chyme from the intestinal lumen. It prevents bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. The mediator for that is called motilin. It causes growling of the stomach in between meals. And I have, why don't I just see if I can get this slide?
So motilin is the hormone?
Motilin.
Motilin is the hormone that's the
Mm-hmm.
prokinetic replicating. Oh.
Yeah. So this is the one the slide that I was missing. Let me see.